Hi everybody. I have tried to record this so many times, so bear with me. But we have landscapers who do the park out here and they've run out of batteries and gas, but they've come back with riding lawnmowers and then they've come back with new juice. So between that and a number of distractions, because I don't have a quiet place to record, I am going to do my best to pop in, and if you've subscribed, hopefully you get an alert that there's a new video, and just do a quick catch up. I'm trying to be more consistent on vacation and in general with connecting with you about everything fiber related. So again, for those who have watched before or for those who are new, my name is Erika and I am an independent knitting pattern designer. I work under the name Grapefruit Gardenia, and I have this Knit Kind podcast that's very informal, really just like being around a table at your local yarn shop or knitting group, where we can all connect on the topic of knitting, fiber arts, sometimes spinning, and do so in an environment that's supportive and kind, which I think is missing from too much of our daily lives. Today I'm not wearing knitting, but I am wearing something that is what I'd consider to be a maker piece. So this shirt is 100% linen. It has this stencil on the front, and can you see? Maybe I should not turn around at all, but it has a design on the back as well. And this shirt is probably at least 10, 15, 20 years old. It was from a company or a small business shop over on Martha's Vineyard called Vital Signs, which I remember when I was young, and I'm in my late 40s, but I remember everyone had these shirts with painted grapes, and then they had the linen with I think it's stenciling as opposed to screening, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, the shop is long gone, but when you have a quality fiber and you care for it, it lasts so much longer than a lot of our ready to wear fashion that is basically disposable, except ruining our environment. So I just wanted to put a little plug in, not only for knitting today, not only for nice fibers to work with, but in a different way that's not the needle arts that I'm usually talking about. So if you have a chance when you're on vacation, you're looking for something to bring home, maybe consider something that will last you a long time, like a beautiful hand-painted linen shirt. So that I'm highlighting. And then today, in terms of what I've been working on, I've actually finished the yoke on the sweater that I'm designing. I have to pause for a second. Did I say you can find me on Ravelry as NittyElf40? Instagram, Facebook, all those places. That's Grapefruit Gardenia. I think that I did say, but Ravelry, NittyElf40. And you can find my patterns on Erika Field's pattern store. I think that's what it's called on Ravelry. I always link it in the notes. So, sorry, I have a little bit of rustling here while I pull some things out. It's okay because we had some tourists going by anyway. So what I've been working on is the yoke design of the sweater that I mentioned last time. I finished it and I'm really, really happy with it. I am probably knitting this sample as a short sleeve because that's how much yarn I have. But I'm hoping that with the finished pattern, I will actually write it so you can make the sleeves any length you want, which of course you can do with many patterns anyway. That's something that's very easy to modify. So it's a yoked sweater where, and this is a little bit about what I'm going to talk about today. I used one variegated yarn for the color work, and then a natural wool for the main color, and the variegated is also natural wool, which I'm going to talk about in a second too. But I don't want to show you the whole thing yet. It's hard for me to keep designs I'm really excited about secret. I want to show them to you and to everyone that I know right away. I have only shared the yoke design, aside from with a few friends around here who I've been knitting with or talking to. I have shared it with the farm / yarn dyer that produced the variegated color, because I wanted to check in with her about possibly collaborating, which I think we're going to be excited to do. What I will show you in terms of a little preview is a swatch. I'm sitting here, it just feels really nice in my hands. So I mentioned last time that I was really inspired by the hydrangea. The hydrangea are always beautiful on the Cape and Islands off the coast of Massachusetts. But this year everyone's talking about how they're just spectacular, and they really are. And so I had this yarn. I might have shown you the skein last time. And this was in the stash I brought with me to design with. And it is by Hands and Heart Farm. I'm going to show you their little, which is in Vermont. It is a DK weight yarn. This particular one is 2-ply. Katherine Knox is the shepherd and teacher and farmer. And it is a blend of border Leicester, Romney, and Merino with 250 yards to 4 ounces. Anyhow, I had, here's the description. For those of you who love farm yarn like I do, an off-the-grid farm in Charlotte, Vermont, where border Leicester and Romney sheep are lovingly raised for show, breeding stock, and pets. Border Leicester and Romney wool is beautiful, versatile, lustrous, and long. Great for felting, spinning, weaving, and knitting. We'll throw crochet in. We don't want to leave the crocheters out. Although I can't say if it's great for crochet because I am not really a crocheter yet. So that is a hydrangea. And here's a little sneak peek at some of the design that will be in the yoke. I don't know if I'll insert a picture. Maybe I'll insert a picture of hydrangea here if I remember, because what I want to show you is that I had to put some texture with it. And I played with it, and I actually kind of riffed a little bit on one of the designs that I just did for a cowl. And it was interesting to me to see how a design that I just did and what I played with doing those swatches could feed into this one and be really meaningful and natural and effective, and not just like plugging something in because it made it easier by a long shot, but because of the play I had done for this last design, it helped me play with this. And so what I wanted to capture about the hydrangea was a little bit about texture in addition to color, and not just texture and color, but if you think about when you look at a painting or when you look at art, the way that the light goes across it. So right now I'm near the water, I'm near the ocean, and that changes the light in some ways. The atmosphere, of course, changes the light, and it also changes the way that I sort of think about how shapes play together, and it's hard to describe, but when I have the whole yoke to show you, it will tie in a little bit more, and I'll tell you more about why it's by the ocean, and I'm talking about that too. So you can kind of see that it uses the variegated yarn in a way, and it uses the texture in a way that it's not your classic colorwork design where it is stranded knitting, but it incorporates knits and pearls. And that's also a little bit of, I won't say an unintentional nod, but somewhere in my brain of all the things that are going on subconsciously when I design is the history of bowhouse stickning, yoke sweater design that was done, and I have some ties to more like my Swedish heritage and the way that we kind of just think about how the threads of what we know how to do instinctively or innately, we feel like maybe plays into what we do. Whether or not that's true, I don't know, but I loved learning about those yoked sweaters and always found it interesting how knits and pearls play. And I think it's Melissa Leapman in one of her books shows that you know, when you're working with knits and pearls, you're picking up the stitch below. So sometimes, which I'll show you in this circle, I made sure that the row I was purling had a variegated row beneath it because I wanted the pearl to show up in the variegated. And then in the center of this one, where I have the lighter main color in the variegated, I have it as stockinette, so it doesn't do that. But I didn't want that everywhere, and I wanted to be intentional about it. So here you see that you'll have rows that have the main color, which is that light color, working with the variegated. And that's kind of the way that light goes across the top of a hydrangea flower. Or that each individual flower sometimes also has, some of them have like a little white spot on them too. And so in some places it's variegated over variegated, and in other places it's either white over variegated or variegated over white. So anyway, this is a little glimpse. It's a really pretty yoke. I'm not just, as I always say, I'm not just saying it because it's my own design. But I do like, whenever I can, to put out something that feels a little bit more unique to me. It doesn't mean that something out there doesn't look like it, but it just means that there's this real authenticity to it in the way that I'm designing it and what I'm trying to capture and how I want it to look, that is coming from me, as opposed to only from a Stitch dictionary, even if I'm using a Stitch dictionary either exactly for certain stitches or as inspiration for how something looks. But I feel like that I get asked a lot, why design, you know, when there's so many out there, and it really is. If you know about designing garments, I mean, it really can be, and is for me, a lot of work. So that's why I do it, because I want to do something that feels unique and different, and like something that I am putting out in the world that isn't already there. So that's this, and I don't want to fail to mention that this gorgeous silvery color here, which probably isn't doing it justice in this light, although it still looks beautiful to me. This is the milky gray from Meadowfed Lamb. They don't have any right now. This was the fall 2023 shearing, I think it said. It's a Finn sheep crossed with Tunis and Targhee, and it's just been a dream to work with. It's spun at Junction Fiber Mill. I showed you the other label, so I'll show you this label too. They have these beautiful, beautiful labels, and it's handwritten on the back. And I love their yarn. I've used it for other things as well. Now, what's really nice is that a lot of my goal is to highlight farm yarn in general, and there are many farm yarns that you can swap in for this, and I would encourage you to use any farm yarn that feels good in your hands and is a good pairing with a variegated farm yarn. Those are going to be harder to find, and that's part of the reason that I really did want to highlight and partner with the Hands and Heart Farm. So I will be at Vermont Sheep Wool this year, October 5th and 6th in Designer Alley, and Hands and Heart Farm will also be there. And they have some of this just really unique non-superwash, non-100% merino. Again, nothing wrong with that, but a lot of what we're trying to highlight and do is encourage people to use different breeds than merino once you are out there and you like a non-superwash wool. And in order to find that and find it in a farm yarn and find it in a variegated, it's like the funnel. It gets narrower and narrower of how many distributors or producers you can find for those particular yarns. So that's your little glimpse for now. I really can't wait to show you the larger yoke, and I am in the process right now of grading it from, if it all works out well, from a garment size 32-inch bust to a garment size 72-inch bust. And, you know, obviously you can wear it with the amount of ease that you want, 0 to 4 inches or more, whatever you're comfortable in. So I'm hoping that fits a wide range of knitters and that you're as excited about it as I am. And that whole idea of the compact flower with the light and the way that it goes over it, my brain's kind of working around a few different themes where maybe we can have a sort of a riff on it where it's hydrangea, peony, or dahlia. Or fill in the blank with your favorite one. Or if you don't like flowers at all, toss it out the window and just knit the sweater because it's pretty. So that's what's been going on in my world. What else is that I'm on vacation. So I thought a really quick little thing to talk about today would be, what do you do with those vacation skeins of yarn? Souvenir skeins of yarn, if you will. I have this beauty. It is called Meadowfed Morning. It's from Vineyard Knitworks over here, Vineyard Haven, Mass. It is a blend of, actually this one is 100% alpaca. So they have some that's 100% alpaca. They have some that's alpaca wool blend. I know they have some with silk, and then they have some sock yarn that's 100% wool, if I recall. But I do actually have 3 skeins of this, but 3 differently colored skeins. So you go out, you go on vacation, you buy something beautiful like this, or you go to a wool festival and you buy something like this because you just, and actually this came from Vineyard Networks a couple of years ago too, because you just love the colors. Or you find a hand dyer and there's a speckled and you just have to have it. Kind of matches my shirt there. So what do you do? What do we do with our beautiful vacation souvenir skeins of yarn? Well, one of the things is this is how I love to design, and I always have loved to design this way, and hopefully I always will. You can use it as the accent in a garment, right? And I've talked about that in other podcasts where it's a yoked sweater and you use a variegated or a gradient or a hand spun. And I've designed that way in a lot of my cowls. So if you look in my Ravelry store, you will see a whole bunch where I've paired either a natural yarn with a variegated or gradient or hand spun, or 2 together, a hand dyed that's like a complimentary one because it came from a monthly club, something like that. So I love to design that way, and of course I would love for you to check out my patterns. But I also want to share with you a few other pattern designers who I've knit in the past. So I can't speak to every pattern that they've put out, but I have knitted their patterns and found them to be very user-friendly. And the first one, I don't know if these will be new to you or not. My goal is not to give you suggestions for designers who are always #1 on the hot Ravelry list, because chances are you don't need to hear that from me, and you might not need to hear these from me either. But in the event you haven't heard of these designers, or you have and you just haven't tried them, I thought I would share them today. One is Susan Ashcroft, Stitchnerd Designs. She is very well known, I think, if you know her. She's worked with a lot of Malabrigo yarn before, and gets known, you know, through them sharing patterns. She does knit-alongs. I'm trying to think of how else I kind of cross paths with her designs. I mostly discovered them through Ravelry, and they just fit the bill of things I was looking for at the time. I want to say she has something like 325 designs in Ravelry, so I'm not going to highlight any one here. If you go, I will link her in the show notes as well, and you find any design that she's done with 2 colors. A lot of them are even written for any gauge, so they're accessories, and she'll just tell you how to size them to where you want to be, or she'll have those 1 skein wonders too. So if you're not looking to pair your souvenir skein with a solid or a natural, you can just do one of her 1 skein wonders. Another one is Mary Annarella, Lyrical Knits, and I thought I would mention a specific pattern of hers called Tiny Dancer. I think I bought it and I have not knit it, but I just loved how she took, you would need 1 to 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn, and one of those variegated yarns. And I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to say, just looking at it in my brain, it's probably mosaic knitting, but it could be slip stitch, or it could be a combination. I mean, slip stitch stranded, or it could be a combination. But basically what she does is she has kind of the front panel with your variegated sock weight as the background, and then your main color almost has like the windows you look through. And now I'm hearing more noise back there, so I'm going to try to go quickly. So again, I brought that one up because I know a lot of people do pick up those sock yarns or fingering weight yarns on vacation, and maybe you just don't feel like doing another 1 skein wonder shawl. They're beautiful, but again, you don't need me to tell you that. So check out the pattern Tiny Dancer if you're looking to maybe do a garment with one of your souvenir skeins. And then the last one I'll mention today is, why not try a new technique? So did you pick up a speckle? Speckle looks great in brioche. If you haven't tried brioche knitting, a really nice introductory pattern is called the Brioche Bandana Cowl. I believe it's written for more than 1 weight. I specifically made the DK weight one, and it might be that you have to buy the pattern separately, unless you want to fiddle around and do the math yourself, which you could. It's by Lavanya, Lavanya. And I thought, again, here's something where maybe you have this special souvenir skein, you want to try a new technique, and you haven't tried brioche. Why not try it? It'll be a beautiful way to kind of highlight what you have, have something small that you can wear, and chances are, I'd have to remember and look on my yardage, but you probably still have enough to use a little bit more of that skein in like an ear warmer or a hat. So those are 3 patterns I wanted to highlight. What to do with your souvenir skein. You have seen what I've been working on mostly, and that's it. I hope you have a great weekend wherever you are, if you do catch this on Friday, if I get it posted. And if not, until next time, knit kindly, live kindly, and thanks for watching.